everybody, welcome back to another wellness update. I can't say weekly wellness update anymore because I just don't do them weekly anymore. Kind of just wait until I have something that I feel like is interesting enough to share, and that's when I hop on and do a wellness update. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this video is sponsored by Element. Element is an electrolyte drink mix. They use a science-backed ratio of electrolytes, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. I love this. It helps me stay hydrated. It helps me feel my best. Anyone on a keto or carnivore diet really should think about their electrolytes. That's something that was really missing when I first started keto and when I did my carnivore experiments. And looking back, I just know that I could have avoided so many things, so much of that keto flu, if I had been supplementing with electrolytes. So Element would like to offer you guys a special deal. If you want to get a free sample pack to try out all of their regular flavors, all you have to do is use my link, the one here on the screen or the clickable one down in the description. It's drinkelement.com/indigo, drinklmnt.com/indigo. Click that link and then you can place an order for anything on the website and they will automatically include the free sample pack in your order. Thanks again to Element for sponsoring today, and now let's get to the chat. So if you guys have been watching our live streams, mine and Lindsay's live streams that we do on Wednesday, we have been talking about, or I announced a few weeks ago that I signed up to run a 10K. Not really something I ever thought I would do, but I decided to challenge myself, do something that, you know, is out of my comfort zone. So I've been working towards that. I still have a couple months and so plenty of time to train. So I've just been working through like what I need to do to get ready for that and how that's all going to work. And a couple weeks ago on the live stream with Lindsay, we had a special guest, and that was Jonathan Shane of the Keto Road. And he gave me all kinds of tips about training and how to prepare and nutrition and all of that. So I've been, incorporating all of that. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the nutrition changes that I'm going to make because of the training for the run and some other things. So the other things that are causing me to decide to make these little changes here or like experiment with these changes is that over the time that I have been exercising consistently at a higher intensity, a much higher intensity than I had been before, I have noticed on my Fitbit, I was looking at the health metrics on there the other day, which I don't really pay much attention to. There's so many things that we have to pay attention to, in our health. And it's just, I looked at the steps, and that's pretty much about it that I use from the Fitbit for. But I decided to take a peek at the other health metrics. And I noticed that over the last 90 days, which is about how long I've been exercising consistently, it's maybe 3 to 4 months. So a little longer than that, but the Fitbit doesn't go back farther than 90 days. So I was able to see my 90-day trends for different things, and they didn't look good. You'd expect, if you're getting more in shape, that your resting heart rate should go down. Mine was going up. It was like the trend was not great. And other things like HRV, which I don't fully understand yet. It's heart rate variability. I just know that higher is better. It means you're more adaptive to stress. Mine was very, very low, very low, and like going down. So there is like some personalness to this where, you can't just compare one HRV to another HRV. You kind of have to know what your personal normal is. So it's possible that mine just runs a little lower, but also over the 90 days, it was going down, which is the opposite direction. And like, if you look up how to, increase your HRV, it's like, be more active, get more in shape. And I'm like, that's what I've been doing. But it's going in the opposite direction. So that and a few other things, it just was obvious that my body has been more in a state of stress than is good. Like I'm more in the sympathetic side of things rather than the parasympathetic side of things. And my body has some stress going on. And the main thing there's a couple things that are probably contributing, but the exercise is one of them. And exercise is obviously a good stress unless you push it too far, and then it can be a bad stress. So I have to work on balancing, how I exercise to make sure that I'm not stressing out my body in a bad way. Also, I am still working through all of my iron issues, and they are not fixed yet. And so I think that probably is contributing as well. So I'm keeping my eye on all of those things. And the main change that I am going to make with my diet is that I'm going to add in some more carbs. And this is something that Jonathan has recommended based on the amount of exercise that I'm doing, as well as some interesting research that he found about iron issues and carbohydrates, and how actually having certain types of carbohydrates in your diet can help your body retain some iron. So because of all of those things, I have decided to add a few more carbs back to my diet. And the way that I'm doing that is just what Jonathan recommended. So what he recommended to me was on days that I train, after I exercise, to like at the next meal after exercise, add 30 to 40 carbs in. And I'm usually at 30 to 40 carbs per day. So that's gonna put me somewhere around 60, 70, 80 carbs per day on the days that I train. And then on the days, like rest days, I can go back to like 50 grams or below in carbs. So I am going to try that. And he said that if that doesn't work, that I can up the carbs even more on the training days to get up to like 100 grams of carbs for the entire day that I exercise. And so I'm just going to play with that and see, like, watch my numbers on my health metrics on my Fitbit, and also how I feel. I can tell, like, it's really been interesting to experience how I feel in this state and see the numbers, because I'm like, oh, I've felt this way before, like certain times in my life. I'm like, I know this feeling, but I didn't ever correlate it to like my HRV and, you know, my resting heart rate and all of these things. So it's been kind of interesting to experience that. So going forward, if you guys watch my What I Eat in a Day videos, you will probably see that little bit higher carb meal, you know, after exercise. I filmed one yesterday that was a rest day. It ended up being a rest day. I was going to run, but then I ended up not being able to. And so it ended up being a rest day. So it was on the lower carb end, just, you know, kind of how I normally have been eating. But then when I do What I Eat in a Day videos that are on exercise days, you will see that little bit of carbs added. So I have been adding carbs on my exercise days for close to a week now. And I don't know for sure that it's helping yet. I'm still kind of in the adaptation phase, trying to figure out if it's going to help me or not. I did notice that when I started adding in carbs, and the carbs that I added in were some squash and some fruit primarily. And I did notice some increase in inflammation when I started adding those things. I can feel like my joints, I won't say I have joint pain, but I just feel joint stiffness. Like when I wake up in the morning, I can always tell if I've had a meal that had something in it that my body doesn't like, the next morning I can kind of just feel all of my joints. I also like started getting some acne right away, which that's not fun ever. So I'm going to try to be really careful with what carbs I add, because I don't know that it's the actual carbohydrates themselves that are giving me the issue, but it could just be something in the food itself, like in the squash or in the fruits that I'm consuming. So I'm going to like play with some different carbohydrates to see what my body likes the best. I am really happy that I did all of the experiments, you know, in the last several months with my CGMs and testing out different carbs, because I tested out a lot of different things, and I was able to see really clearly that some things spike my blood sugar way too high, and other things like hardly see a blip. And so like sweet potatoes just spiked my blood sugar massively. But then if I had a banana with yogurt, I almost saw no rise at all. So I have a pretty good idea of what carbs are good as far as my blood sugar goes. I also just need to kind of play with it and see like how to keep my body in balance with adding the carbs. So the way that I think of, you know, trying to keep myself healthy is kind of like I'm a bucket and my bucket can only hold so much. And as soon as it's to the top, it starts to overflow. And that's like the inflammation and all the, you know, stuff that we don't like. Now, I don't have any specific allergies, like anaphylactic, like if I eat this one thing, it, you know, will kill me. It's more that there are all kinds of toxic things in our environment and things that are inflammatory to us in the foods we eat. Even when you try to eat as clean as possible, there's still some inflammatory things in there. There's inflammatory things in our air. There's inflammatory things in our water. There's toxins everywhere. I mean, you just, like I walked past someone at the grocery store the other day and their perfume or whatever, you know, chemical smell coming off of them was like a cloud. And those toxins just can build up. So instead of trying to completely clean my environment and say, I need to be in a place where my air is perfectly pure and my water is perfectly pure and everything around me is perfectly pure. Instead, since that's impossible. And so what I choose to do is just try to reduce the amount of the inflammatory things to my body. And some things, obviously, I just can't reduce at all, and other things I can cut out. And so when I'm adding in some carbs to my diet, I want to think about, what am I taking away? And I kind of experienced this when I was playing with the paleo diet. I found that when I was on a paleo diet, I was able to eat carbs and do well. Like I could do well eating carbs. I found though that when I added dairy back in, I did not do well with carbs and dairy. It was more than my body liked. So with adding these few carbs back, because it's not a ton, it's just a few, I decided I'm going to cut back on the amount of dairy that I'm consuming, primarily cheese. Cheese is just an easy thing for me to grab. It's an easy addition to my meals that, is a great addition, but I don't need it. So when I'm having the carbs, I'm going to try to reduce down the dairy. And when I have carbs, I do know also from experience that having a huge amount of carbs and fat in the same meal can be really detrimental if you're trying to, maintain your weight or lose weight. And so just since I'm adding in some carbs, taking out a little bit of fat, not all the fat, but taking out a little bit of fat, especially in that meal with carbs, is probably a good idea for me. And taking out cheese is just a really easy way to do that. So that is what I am planning. I didn't want anybody to be taken off guard if I posted what I eat in a day video that includes some fruit or some squash or something like that. Don't want to freak anybody out, but I will be doing that on my training days, and I'll be sharing how it goes. And hopefully, I can get this inflammation down in my body. I can get myself more into the parasympathetic mode and, use the exercise for a good stress, but not let it stress out my entire life. That is the goal. So that is what I'm working on. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I will be back again with another video probably soon.